Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dalal Mawad. I'm a journalist with the Associated Press, and I'll be moderating this afternoon's panel, which is the fourth and the last panel of a series of panels organized by Carnegie Middle East and the Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung about Lebanon and the Centennial. Many issues have been discussed in the previous three sessions. Today, the environment, which is a crucial and important topic, is on the table, despite everything that Lebanon is witnessing. I'm going to leave the floor now to the director of the Carnegie Middle East Center, Maha Yahya, and then to Malte Geyer from the Stiftung to talk about this series, and then we'll go into our discussion.
Thank you, Dalal, and thank you, Ziad, Nada, and Mark for being part of this final installment of the series. I just wanted to say a few words of thanks to Malte in particular and to the Konrad-Adenauer for a great partnership on this series. As Dalal just outlined, this was a four-part series that was looking at the Centennial Reflections on Greater Lebanon. The first session was entitled Cutting the Gordian Knot of Lebanon's Power Sharing System, and perhaps the biggest takeaway from that one was, should we really be talking about cutting or untangling the Gordian knot, and which one would help lead Lebanon safely out of the mess it's in and prevent a civil conflict. The second panel was about what came after the Merchant Republic, what comes after the Merchant Republic, which really focused on the economy and the need for, actually it was interesting because the panel ended up focusing on the need for an independent government that is able to implement a short-term fiscal stabilization plan, as well as put together the beginnings of a more forward-looking economic path vision for Lebanon. And it looked a lot, I mean, they really did focus on how decisions on the economic front are being paralyzed by politics, in a sense, politics trumping in economics repeatedly. The third panel was on security and freedom, something that we're seeing. There's a considerable concern in Lebanon today that once more people are being being asked to choose between their security and their freedom. I think one of the panelists said something that Lebanon is known as a justice by phone, where public prosecutors and justice are really literally one phone call away from politicians. But what was interesting is that there was also a note of hope, a glimmer of hope that came out of that particular panel, and that focused on the attempts for judicial reform, the efforts by younger judges to depoliticize the judicial sector, but also to the efforts of NGOs like Legal Agenda and others to also push forward on judicial reform as a fundamental pillar for protecting press freedoms. And today we're looking at the green economy turning black to green. And the idea really is that if we want to move, for Lebanon to survive for the next 100 years, a fundamental and key pillar of any vision for the country has to be not only about preserving its environment, it's not just about enhancing it, but actually there are ways, and I know that some of you will be discussing this, to make this, how do we green our economy? How do we enhance green economies? How do we make sure existing sectors become greener, etc. I will end here. Again, I want to thank the panelists today. I want to thank Malte for a great partnership. I'm sure there will be many more partnerships to come on other projects. And thank you, Dalal, for agreeing to moderate this session. I'll be listening very closely. Malte, over to you.
Thank you very much, Maha. Thank you, Dalal, Mark, Ziad, Nada. Thank you very much for joining today, and thank you, especially Maha, you mentioned it already. It was an interesting process of forming, conceptualizing our topics. We first had the idea to mark the special day with one day full of different panels. I think it was a good decision also to give it a little bit of time. You would probably agree with in many issues that have been discussed, like we really had and still have difficulties to follow up on what is happening in Lebanon. I think this is, but also marks at the same time the importance of the issues, and not only looking back, but especially now looking forward. Maha, you also mentioned it with a sense of hope. I also have the feeling, like when also seeing like the interactions between the audience, the participants, and the speakers. From our side, today's title is, of course, comes in a very timely manner. As you know, the issue of building up green economies is, of course, also of high political importance in Europe, especially in Germany. We ourselves are struggling with that issue, or trying to find new innovative ways to combine a safe and clean ecosystem with economy and innovation also. I think this is also something where we would love to see more synergies, like between Europe and the region, of course. Every new innovation could also mean an economic win-win situation. I think focusing on Lebanon, we would all agree that it is really a beautiful country. It is particularly in the case of Lebanon, today's topic becomes a significant importance also. Thank you very much again, and I think we will have a very productive talk today. It was really our pleasure also to support and cooperate with Carnegie on this series. From my side, I wish you an interesting conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malte. I would like to first introduce our panel. For today, very briefly, we are joined by Nada Zarour, who's the former president of the Lebanese Green Party, currently heads its arbitration council. Nada is also a veteran environmental activist, and she's extensively worked with non-governmental organizations, mainly on deforestation and the protection of Lebanon's environment and natural resources. Mark Ayoub joins us as well. He's a researcher with the Issam Fares Institute at Ayoub in the program of energy policy and security. He's also a chemical engineer. And last but not least, Ziad Abi Chaker, who's a pioneer in the world of recycling in Lebanon, and was really at the forefront during the garbage crisis in 2015. And he heads Cedar Environmental, doing really extraordinary work when it comes to recycling in this country. I'm very happy to see Nada and Ziad, because I've worked with both of them in the past as a journalist and as an environmental activist myself. And nice to meet you, Mark, virtually. So today's panel is entitled Turning Black into Green. And I think the big question is, how do we make sure that the environment does not take a back seat in the national priorities of Lebanon amid the myriad of crises that the country is grappling with, especially this unprecedented economic and financial crisis? I mean, in this context, the question remains, how do we survive? Because as we all know today in Lebanon, we're talking about a survival mode, and things only worsened after the explosion on August 4th. How do we survive? How do we save our economy, but also protect the environment? And how do we convince policymakers, but also average citizens, that the two are not mutually exclusive? My first question is to Nada. Nada, you're in a political party. So when we're contextualizing this and what I just mentioned, how do we really convince people that the environment and economic growth are not mutually exclusive? And do we need today a new economic vision for Lebanon, not only to get it out of the crisis, because we need one to get out of this economic crisis, but also an economic vision that takes into consideration the sustainability of resources, a green economy, and the protection of our environment?
Thank you, Dalal. Also, it's good to meet all Ziad and you. We've been activists a long time ago. Yeah, for the Green Party and as an activist and as a politician, what we need is a mature government to put on the priorities on their agenda, the environment. You know, the climate movement is already preparing plans to relaunch a global vision of sustainability as a way to recover from the economic drop caused by COVID-19 all over the world. And for us as a Green Party, we are trying to work on a vision as a long-term vision to add it to the Lebanon economic and social development. This vision needs to be integrated into the existing economic strategy of Lebanon. You know, they have an economic strategy, and we're trying to integrate with the government strategy. So our plan is to make our people ready, and we are trying to promote it in a way that this document will provide a general outline of current trends in energy, in transportation, in waste management, in agriculture, etc. So what we need exactly, as I told you, a mature government, a mature, responsible politicians to listen what are the needs exactly for our future, what we want for our future, what we need for our coming generation. So all these are into the shifting to the green economy. When we say that we want to shift to a green economy, we are talking about good quality jobs. It's not about that we like green or we are passionate about green or we are committed to green issues, but what we are talking, it's really serious. It's about the green economy that we provide a better future to the other generation. So in our discussion, I can talk about more about our plan in this strategy. I can tell you more, how can we create jobs? How can we invest in funds that are really can help us and can be invested in good green initiatives?
Yes, we will go sector by sector. Of course, we can't cover all the environmental and the green sectors here, but the main ones. And so just to summarize, the Green Party is going to offer whatever government is formed, hoping it's a mature government, a new economic vision that will integrate the environment and the green economy as a main component. Now I'm going to go to Ziad Abi Chaker. Ziad, we're nearing the 1-year anniversary of Lebanon's so-called uprising. However, we want to label this an uprising, a revolution. And to me, this uprising did not start in 2019 in October. It had seeds and roots in August or in the summer of 2015 when people took to the streets protesting the garbage crisis and the mismanagement of waste by the political class. 5 years on, unfortunately, we feel that not much has been done. And again, you can correct me. There's no comprehensive, sustainable, green waste management solution that is being implemented or enforced throughout the country. And we feel like it's been a piecemeal approach. And as they say in Arabic, ter'iyah. We've heard about landfills, being their lifelines being extended. We've heard about incinerators, and there's a big question mark. We can talk about this. So Ziad, has anything been done when it comes to the garbage crisis, which is a major problem today in Lebanon in those 5 years? And if nothing has been done, why?
Well, of course, nothing has been done, because if anything has been done, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be repeating the same mistakes we've been doing for the last 25 years or so. Why nothing is being done? Because it is the same mentality, the same approach of creating monopolies for political cronies. The waste management file is ripe with corruption. We all know that. Everybody knows that. The waste management file is the prime responsible for bankrupting our municipalities. Now we are on the brink of a new waste crisis, but most of our municipalities, all of them, basically all of them, are bankrupt. They cannot, even if they want to do anything on their own, if they don't want to wait for politicians, they want to take charge in that aspect, they can't, because their money is being plundered, I will say plundered, by the central government. This is all due to the corrupt way of dealing with the waste management file.
Ziad, and this is a question also for Mark and Nada, so we can take turns. There were a few things that were put on the table for resolving the garbage crisis. There were quite comprehensive solutions put by NGOs, including some policymakers. But for some reasons, we kept going back to incinerators. And this was the only thing that the politicians were serious about.
But this is the only thing that makes them money.
Okay.
This is you know, when you present them with a comprehensive solution and they insist yet again on installing incinerators, and we all know how prohibitive an incinerator cost is, and we all know how prohibitive the operation of an incinerator is, and you see there was one point in time during the last crisis, practically every member of parliament was pushing the incineration agenda because they had some connection with some foreign companies who wanted to sell us incinerators. I've sat with probably half of the parliament, and half of them were pushing, you know, they were preaching to me that incineration was the best solution for the country. Again, this is a question of political corruption. It is not a question of, we're not lacking behind when it comes to technology or to research and development. We are way up there with most of the other countries, and we can solve this crisis environmentally.
Ziad, before I go to Mark, can you give us, like, very briefly, the percentages of how much do we recycle and what is the potential that we're missing out on? How much can we put in a sanitary landfill, etc.? Where are we today in terms of figures and numbers? Because this could be an indication of what the potential is for solutions.
Sure. First of all, I'm only talking about household waste, you know, the municipal solid waste, what comes out of homes and hotels and restaurants and this kind of stuff. I'm not talking about the other 6 categories of waste. If we're just talking about municipal solid waste, the biggest chunk is food waste. And food waste, you can make a very good quality compost out of it. And now we are on the brink of famine because we need to grow more homegrown foods, and homegrown foods need fertilizer, and we're importing all this fertilizer. So, and now we cannot import it anymore because it has become prohibitively expensive. So any sound plan would look at our municipal solid waste and say, listen, 70% of our waste is organic. We have to turn it into a high quality compost. Let's put in all the right parameters so that we make it more valuable as a raw material, and we produce a higher end fertilizer. And then we can at least solve our own food shortages locally. We have plenty of other plastics have become widely available in the waste stream, and the immediate, if you want, the immediate injection of hard currency would be to export recyclables. Now there are many companies that work with me and they export PET flakes. This is the plastic of plastic bottles and soda bottles. And this is why it is imperative that we put on a sorting at source national strategy. We create as many sorting centers around the territory as possible so that all these raw materials can end up being exported instead of ending up being landfill.
Mike, I want to go back to you with the issue of incinerators, because you're an energy expert, and what the politicians have been.
You're muted, Dalal.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the politicians keep using the word waste to energy, referring or alluding indirectly to incinerators, which in my understanding is something completely different, is not always the same. Is there a capacity in Lebanon to use waste to turn it into energy? I mean, the landfill in Naame is sometimes referred to when it comes to that issue.
Of course there is, and here I re-echo like what Ziad has just mentioned regarding the incinerator, and I would like just to add on that from a governance perspective, like the waste or the solid waste management has been one aspect or one pillar of what have been called the cost of corruption in Lebanon. Like as long as we are going into this array of corruption, like we cannot go or look into other solutions that bring just money for the political elite or for the surrounding people around them. So on your question, yes, we have the example of Naame that has been producing around 7 megawatts from waste to energy. And it has been like made and done according to the highest standards, international standards. And I think it could even produce more and use much more from the waste that has been used there. On another hand, like we are facing, as Ziad has mentioned, we are facing now another crisis in the near future regarding the Quarantine or the Jdeide Bash Hamoud dump, and also the Costa Brava thing. So even before the decision or the recent decision that has been made to extend or enlarge the Quarantine dump, there has been recent studies by the CNRS, the National Center for Remote Sensing, as well as the Lebanese Foundation for Renewable Energy on the Quarantine dump or the Jdeide dam. And here some results of this study has shown that we can produce, and here it's something that is recent and exclusive to this, that if we use the solar energy on top of those, we can even produce for Beirut area, and this has been done post the Beirut blast. We can produce around 50 megawatts only from the Quarantine or the Jdeide dump, using around 490,000 square meters of the areas that have been covered with waste. So yes, of course we can, and there is a huge opportunity to turn this black, like if we can use the title of our panel today, and that of course Ziad can elaborate more on, into something green. So of course there is an opportunity, and we should be benefiting from this rather than keeping it, seeing our sea like this area covered by waste and being extended year after year.
Thank you, Mike. Nada, I have a question for you. 5 years ago, I mean, I covered a bit the recycling industries in Lebanon. There aren't that many because of all the constraints, and there are no incentives. But is there potential for more recycling industries, companies that would create jobs and help with the crisis? And what is needed to encourage these companies? I mean, in the past few years, we've seen more and more initiatives, but what is needed here to have more of that?
Yeah, before answering your question, I want to make sure that there is no more money for the incinerators. All the funding, I'm surely doubt that they will be spent on incinerators. Let's look about the Bisri, and let's look about the positive way how Bisri is stopped. So I don't think incinerators will be the solution. So we are going back to the pyramid of recycling that we are purchasing in our daily life. What we have exactly, and what we are injecting in our paper for the economy, sustainable economic paper, that the supercharged plan for a strong local recycling industry by building recycling factories. This is the most important, and what Ziad was saying. And developing innovative ways to use recycled materials. So in our paper, this would create ongoing manufacturing, transport, and constructions jobs, and help us protect our oceans, rivers, and environment, etc. So what I'm saying, it is possible and achievable. We can redirect the funds from damaging, unnecessary, and expensive projects, as I said, like Bisri. Now we are witnessing a crime, an environmental crime in Jdeidi, Sad, and Burj Hamoud, enlarging the landfill by 40,000 meters square. So they are not listening. They are taking the things that they are, because they are corrupted and they are looking for other resources, everything. They are like Dracula, taking the money from all the municipalities. This is really bad, but it's not going to continue. There is no money for them anymore. Khalas, episode. This is the final episode. I'm sure about it, and I'm very excited to watch this final episode, the last episode of these criminals, what they are doing to our country.
Ziad, thank you, Nada. To build on what Nada said, based on your experience, what are 2 or 3 things we need to do to encourage the growth of recycling industries? I am assuming that consumer and household behavior is crucial, because you need this recycling material to get to these industries. And unfortunately, maybe this culture is being built, but we're still not there at the household level.
Yeah, but you need to start probably two or three steps above the household. Is you need to put in the administrative framework. And the administrative framework to get out of the garbage crisis is to fully embrace decentralization. We have 26 administrative regions in this country. We should approach the waste management plan by saying each administrative area, yani qada, is responsible for their own waste management. Once you break it down, you don't have to create those mega landfills that now we are seeing. So you break it down onto the administrative area, administrative region, and then you empower municipalities. I mean, if anyone is listening now, the only way we can get out of the crisis, 40,000 square meters of an expanding landfill will only give us 6 months time. That's it. 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months is not even enough to lay down the infrastructure for Qada al-Matan to have its own recycling facility, for Qada Kasserwain, for Qada Asgharta. You know, we need time to lay down those infrastructures, and we need money. What I'm working on right now is to bypass government funding and to go directly to international donors and work on scenarios where those international donors with the Union of Municipalities and people from the private sector who are willing to assume full responsibility for the success of the project, to at least give a prototype model of what should be done. And one part, to coming back to your household parameter, one part of that plan, once you adopt decentralization, you have to make way. You take away all the garbage bins from the streets. You stop allowing people to dump their garbage in bins on the streets. You adopt a plan where the municipality goes door to door and collects waste from households. And they will ask you to sort your waste in 2 bags only. One for organics and Kleenex and baby diapers and what have you. And the other one for everything else, plastic, glass, metals. And if they come to you to collect the waste and you have not sorted them properly, you know, the first couple of times they will say, listen, we cannot take this. You need to resort it again, and then we can take it back. If you insist on not sorting your garbage, then the municipality has the right to fine you. Take لظبط. And then once you have control on the source of material, خلاص, you leave it to the industrious Lebanese population, who will always find ways to come up with good
and there
solutions.
are successful recycling industries in Lebanon. I mean, few, but there are, and the work you have done. I don't want to dwell.
I just shared with you a huge list
Yes,
of people
the list,
who take recyclables.
Yes, and there are also initiatives who are doing the role of the mediator, taking the Recycle
Exactly.
Lebanon and others. I don't want to stay too long on the waste management issue, although it's a very big file and it's very important. And I feel sorry because I've covered this issue for 5 years, and I'm hearing you, Ziad, now say what you said 5 years ago, and nothing has been done. It's really frustrating. Unfortunately, the waste management crisis and the garbage crisis has aggravated another problem, which is water, pollution of water. And I will go to Mark about this. In Lebanon, when it comes to the water sector, we have 2 problems. One, that is the management of water supply. People wonder how come in a country like Lebanon, households still need to buy water, to cater for their daily needs. So there's a water management problem. It feels like the supply is not enough, although it's supposed to be enough. And then there's a quality problem. The water is polluted, and the garbage crisis has contributed to that, but we also have the sewage system. That is another issue, tons of problems. So, Mark, how would you describe the water sector situation today? What are the issues at stake? And what do you think is the solution?
So I can look at this in a combined, if you want, or dual aspect. So we have the water and the wastewater that are like connected in a way or another, and also an additional layer that comes at the top of this and that exacerbates this problem is the energy as well for water and service provision. So for water and wastewater service provision. So as we many of us know, that we have in the new law of regarding the water, the 4 water establishment that are trying to get their independency or and to work under the supervision of the ministry in order to supply or present this water service to the citizen. But we are facing here several technical and also a mentality from the citizen side as well. So if we want to start from the technical, we know the connections and all the network that we had, the old network that we have here in Lebanon, and just one number, like half of what is generated or half what is of the water that is pumped is lost on the way before reaching the citizens. So around 50% we call non-revenue water, and this number has a range like depending on the areas, on the region. But let's assume like this: so 50% is lost, is non-revenue.
Sorry, why? Because of how old the networks are. They
Yes.
haven't been maintained.
Yes. And on the other hand, there is also a mentality and this comes again to the fining or how the billing system is done that Ziad has just mentioned on the waste sector. But We also think, or people think of the water as granted, or take water as granted. So we don't usually use the energy, the water efficiently. And as long as there is water, they think that this is available all the time and as many quantity as we want. So this is something that also needs to be worked on, and awareness on how to efficiently use our water resources, because the way we are moving today is towards another crisis in a decade or two, and we will be facing shortages in water supply to the cities, to the main cities, and to the Beirut area specifically. So, and on top of this, we have the energy, like the energy crisis that also exacerbates the water. So today, if if the water establishments are not paying EDL their bills, and they are not paying for the electricity they are using, and EDL cannot demand from those water establishments to pay their bills. So how can those water establishments sustain, and how can we speak about like remove those losses from the EDL, if you want, numbers, or EDL budget. So this is really correlated, but we see a lot, and we have worked here a lot over the past 2 years on energy efficiency in water and wastewater services. So wastewater is really an untapped sector where we have a lot of lost potential in terms of water reuse and treatment of wastewater. So imagine as well, all of the wastewater are sent to our sea, and specifically on the shore or in the main cities. So we have a limited number of wastewater treatment plants in Lebanon, and even if they are fully operational, they are not like the process is not really working as needed, because not all of the villages or all of the cities are connected to those wastewater treatment networks. So this is a combined, if you want, problem. We cannot look at water alone without looking at the wastewater and how we can benefit from this wastewater. And on top of that, there is the energy crisis that is exacerbating this on all sectors, and not only on water alone.
Nada, what about water pollution? Whatever water we are getting, I mean, we hear a lot that the water is polluted. Our sea is polluted. The water that we get in our households is polluted. Is this related to the sewage networks? Is this related to the garbage crisis? What is the problem when it comes to the quality of the water that we are getting?
It's the infrastructure. It's all about the infrastructure. And plus, the citizen is responsible too. We are not concerned as if we are living in a small hub, and all around us, everything around us, we are not responsible. It's all depending on the government. The government has its responsibility, but when we throw our sewage garbage or the industry all over the Kisrwan and reaching the shore and the beaches, this is our responsibility. So we need fines. And we need to be strict in all decisions. We need law. The law can protect us as citizens and can help us to be to make us really responsible. Unfortunately, what we're talking all about is repeating itself. We are not changing. The Lebanese people are responsible for choosing this club of politicians. We are responsible. And we are responsible when we vote. We don't know how to vote. And this is all, it's a full package. Why we are here? Because we are part of this crisis. So what we need and what we should do, of course, we need a responsible government that can really tackle and raise the issue about the infrastructure. And of course, restoring our natural resources, this is a priority in everything, in the forest, in the water, in everything. So we need to restore our natural resources as a citizen, as a simple citizen. So this is what we should do. We are now, we should face what we were lacking before. and we should go to the front line and asking for our rights. We need our rights from this government, from this politician, from this club. I don't even can say they are politicians. They are nothing. I don't know what they are doing.
It's a problem of governance. The people, the policy makers, if we can call them policy makers, the people in power, when it comes to water and the problem of demand and supply, have been advocating. I mean, the National Water Strategy put in place in 2010 led to the building of more than 10 dams, if I am not mistaken. And they are offering dams as a solution to this water shortage and to what Mark was saying, that we're going towards a water crisis in a decade or two, including for the Beirut area. I'm not going to go into the Bisri Dam because now this project is not happening anymore. The World Bank has pulled out
funding again.
They will ask for funding. Yeah, they will ask for funding again, and it's happened in other countries, in India, where the World Bank pulled out, but then the government was able to get funding again. But I want to talk about dams in general, and Mark and Nada and Ziad, please pitch in. Are dams a green solution? And some politicians are also putting them on a table as a way to create jobs, through all these construction companies, etc. Is that the right way?
I will let me summarize it in one sentence.
Yes,
please. Dams in the water sector are the incinerators of the waste management sector.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a way to just make money by pouring cement, by providing work for political cronies. And what really pisses you off completely is that we move from one failed dam to another and yet another. We've built so far how many? Starting with the Brisa dam that costed $13 million at the time, did not even gather 13 liters of water. And then we kept on building dams, and all the geologists are saying, stop building dams. The land that we live on, the nature of this land, the geological nature of this land does not retain water. You are lucky that we live on a surface that filters water through, and you are living on the largest water basin in this whole area. So start investing in smart artesian wells, and stop wasting and plundering public funds for failed projects. That's it. This is all I'm going to say about water.
Mark, Nada, you want to add anything about the dams? Because this is the last topic in the water sector. I want to move to another sector. Nada, you are mute. Can you unmute yourself, please?
I agree with Chaker and with Ziad. What I'm saying, that as a green global members in all over the world, they are against the dam in all over the world, because the dam, they execute them in 50 years, after 50 years. So all the money that they are investing in dams, it looks that they are not getting a proper water. The water needs more filtering, and it costs a lot. So for them, they reach to a solution that the dams are not the right way to keep or save water from the for the other seasons. So dam for all over the world, they execute all the dams after 50 years. So what we are saying in Bal'a, they are keeping dumping the cements in this Belua to try to cover the land for it, and they couldn't. So there is no study. It's corruption everywhere, in every detail. So there is corruption, and that's what we're facing here.
Now, not to mention that most of these dams are the environmental assessment, the impact assessment is done sometimes by the same contractor company. There's conflict of interest, which we've also seen in other sectors. So now I want to move to power and energy and to alternative energy. And I think this is the specialty of Mark, and I will give you some time to talk about this. But maybe Mark, as Ziad did with the waste management, can you map the situation today in terms of the usage and production of alternative green energy and what the potential is?
Sure. So just allow me to take a few minutes to explain to all who are listening to us today about the current situation and what are when we speak about the topic of this session is how to turn black to green. So when we speak about black, I can list three main aspects of this black we are speaking about. So first is the economy or the economic aspect of it. And here I am speaking about the impact of the financial crisis we are living on the citizens' access to electricity and the electricity services. And here also, when I speak about this, this is meant by the drop in dollars and foreign currencies and the inability of the BDL or the central bank to continue supporting the import of such fuel, the heavy fuel oil and diesel oil for the EDL. And at the same time, in parallel, we have this shortage in liquidity is reflected as well at the level of the owners of the diesel generators or private diesel generators. So they are really having several challenges and extreme challenges in accessing also funds to get their diesel as well. So this is on the economic part. Second is on the technical. And here, when I mean technical, we have this unmet demand. We have this deficit and shortage in generation, and we have lived during this summer in July or around the end of July, this almost complete blackout in electricity supply, like around over 24 hours of complete blackouts. And this is mainly due to the incapacity of the current, also first the inaccessibility to the fuel, and second, the old and polluting also power plants, EDL power plant. The third aspect, and this is like one key pillar as well, and it is part of our discussion, is the environmental and health cost of it. Like a recent study from the Greenpeace has placed Lebanon along with Egypt as one of the highest countries in the Middle East and North Africa and the MENA region with premature death caused by the use of fossil fuels. And here, when we say about, if we want to tell numbers, we can speak about 1,800 to 4,200 deaths in 2018 caused by this use of fossil fuels and of premature death. So three main aspects of this black, and on top of that, like the Beirut blast on August 4th came as a devastating event to which we could not continue in the same way after that. So the recent also report by the World Bank has a rapid and damage assessment, needs assessment for the electricity sector or the energy, has estimated the damages ranging that has been made to the Electricité du Liban building, to the Ashrafi substation, to the National Control Center that has been completely destroyed by around 40 to 50 million US dollars. And the losses, the net estimated losses between 55 to 70 million US dollars. So when we put this into perspective, this is the current situation. This is where do we stand today. And this is really a push that we cannot continue with the same planning and with the same way forward. So today, after the blast, and even before it, we were living in a dire situation when it came to electricity and to the energy sector specifically. So today, Lebanon has an opportunity to immediately leapfrog into this green energy transition. If we call it energy revolution, energy transition, the ambitious and even transformational energy transition. So the Lebanese government has today, or Lebanon is producing around 56 megawatts of renewable energy, mainly solar and a bit and hydro power. And this is almost around 3 to 4% of its electricity produced. But Lebanon has pledged as well last year that he will be producing 30% of its electricity from renewable energies by 2030. So a recent study by the IRENA, the International Renewable Energy report for Lebanon, as a renewable energy mapping for Lebanon, has estimated that by 2030 we can be producing around 1 gigawatt of wind, 2.5 megawatts of solar, 600 megawatts of hydro, 500 megawatts of decentralized solar, and around 13 megawatts of biogas. So those are the numbers. The potential is there. All the studies and the reports are there. Even like if we look at all the recent reports since the beginning of this year only, not to mention the ones that has been done earlier over the past decade. So the World Bank has mentioned in one of his emergency action plans or reports for Lebanon that Lebanon can produce around 4,700 megawatts or 4.7 gigawatts of solar energy using some lands that have been already mapped by the CNRS and several other actors, the LFRE as well, and mainly some public lands, يعني المشاعات, what we call in Arabic مشاعات. So the lands owned by the Lebanese Republic, but they are not used, and that are suitable for solar and wind generation. Also, the EDF has been commissioned by the World Bank to do a least cost generation plan. And this is a first of a kind study that has never been done in Lebanon over the past 30 years. And this will open the floor and, if you want, open the way for Lebanon to know which energy mix we should follow from now until the next decade when it comes to renewable energy generation. And here the numbers, the report is still ongoing, the study is still ongoing, but we can speak about higher penetrations and higher a transformational integration of renewable energy potential in our energy mix. And you may ask me, what is the consequences of this, or what are the outcomes of that? Like, first of all, we have this economic crisis today, that we cannot continue relying on foreign currencies that we do not have anymore. So this will reduce the hard currency outflow to buy fuel and polluting and expensive heavy fuel oil and diesel oil. It will shrink the government deficit. And so something that you have mentioned earlier in the solid waste, and also it can happen in the water and in other sectors, is stimulating the economy, like creating jobs, preserving the environment mainly, and improving the welfare and the health of the population. So the potential is there, the numbers are, and the studies are there. But on top of this all, if I want to finish this just quick summary, and there is a need for the governance, and this cannot.
And
yes,
the institutional
exactly.
and structural framework.
Political and institutional and governance for decision-making process for this to happen. There is a need to change and to change in the mentality and the way we are moving forward in the sector, and the application of laws. Like we have a law for the electricity sector that has been ratified since 2002. It's called 462/2002, and that has not been implemented yet. So on top of all, if we do not have a governing entity or a decision-making that is independent from the political way and that is willing to change and to move toward this energy transition or transformational transition, then all the numbers or all the studies will remain paper, and
which unfortunately is the case for the other two sectors, waste management and water. It's really, it ends up being an issue of governance and of political will and of implementation. And
I just need to,
on the political change that Nada has. Yes, go ahead.
Regarding electricity.
Briefly, because we are running out of time, and I would like to talk about more.
It is imperative that we break the monopole of the government on energy, on power generation. That sector should be deregulated, and we should count as much as possible on independent power producers, and put the right legal and environmental framework for them to generate electricity, and to stop this masquerade of depending on a sole supplier that has ended up costing us $40 billion deficit just from the electricity file, because we cannot buy electricity from somebody else. You know, the way forward would be maybe the new state would rehabilitate the distribution network. They would manage the distribution network, but then they open the market, they deregulate it for independent power producers to generate power and sell it on the grid. This is the only way we're going to see competition, and we're going to see good service.
Maybe is the Zahle power plant an example of that? Are you talking about more?
Not really. It's not the model we are looking for. The Zahle is buying power from the state and selling it back to the consumers, and then whenever the state cannot supply, he has generators. This is not the model we are looking for, and those generators are very polluting. By the way, I'm all for the alternative sources, but I'm also for deregulation and decentralization of the power distribution network.
And unfortunately, maybe the way incinerators are for waste management, dams for water, the drilling of oil and gas in our sea is their solution, or at least being offered as a solution. Very quickly, Mark, any hope, any potential when it comes to the drilling of oil and gas? I mean, we've seen one block has shown there's nothing. There's still the Block 9. There are maritime borders with Israel that need to be delineated and, to avoid conflict. But is there potential there? And should we be looking at these traditional power sources, which is oil and gas, or we need to forget about that?
First of all, of course, gas, as a source, will be better than the diesel fuel oil and heavy fuel oil that we are using. But we have to look at this, at the oil and gas and the exploration and the development activities for the future, like as an activity that is that cannot happen tomorrow. And this is a decade-long activity that can. And what happened in Block 4 is usual, is normal, knowing if we follow the activities and the work of those international oil companies. Like they usually drill 3 to 4 wells in several blocks if you want to find a discovery or a potential reservoir in one of them. So we had high hopes in Block 4. We might have or find in another well, but this is part of the bigger picture that is happening today. And I'm afraid that Lebanon is today standing at a very, if you want, tiny situation in this. Like our options are shrinking when it comes to exporting our gas because of everything happening in the East Med and those conflicts when it comes to oil and gas exploration. But of course, yes, we can use this at least what we produce from those oil and gas findings in our exclusive economic zone and our waters for our own use and for our power plants. Our power plants cannot continue to work, and any new power plant that needs to be built shall have to work on a natural gas. And this natural gas can be supplied from our waters. So we should use those natural gas power plants as a base load for our generation and our energy mix. But also we should be looking at alternative energy sources also as another way of leapfrogging into the cleaner and greener environment. But of course, gas is needed for our power plants, and finding this in our waters would be an advantage for us to our own use. So when it comes to the higher level, when it comes to exporting this gas, then this is a geopolitical game that we need to look at, especially with with everything happening in the region and the East Mediterranean Gas Forum that has been launched and signed earlier last week, just in Egypt, and all the conflict in the countries of the region. But hopefully, this is something futuristic and even any discovery will need at least 6 to 8 years to be like to see it long-term thing. So we cannot wait.
Governance
we cannot wait. So we cannot wait for that, and we should be focusing on immediate, shorter-term solutions rather than this long-term solutions.
I think we lost Nada. I'm gonna keep this question if she's back. I wanted to discuss a bit deforestation and the green spaces, but I will ask this to Ziad, and maybe this is helpful for those listening or those who are gonna check this talk. Are there promising citizen initiatives when it comes to supporting the green economy, creating green jobs that we can shed light on, that maybe there's a way to support these initiatives? We hear this especially from the Lebanese diaspora. How can we help these initiatives? What can we do? So can you briefly talk about this?
Yeah, listen, of course, there are a lot of people all over the country doing a lot of good work. Problem is they need support, first of all, and the major obstacle here is the municipalities. They need to own this file, and they need to be a bit more proactive in dealing with the waste in their own areas. And unfortunately, most of our municipalities are an extension of the political parties, that are an extension of the politicians, and that showcase a major incompetencies and ineptitude and what have you. So now you have a lot of private citizen or civil society initiatives that are working, but for them to be sustainable in the long run, they need to be financially viable. And to be financially viable, then there's a parameter of industry that needs to be involved. There is a parameter of circularity. I mean, you can go collect as much plastic as you want from an area. If you cannot find an outlet for them that's gonna pay you back to offset a bit of the costs of doing this exercise, eventually it's gonna stop. This is why adopting decentralization and empowering municipalities to at least I don't want to say assume full responsibility for these actions, but at least help support the local initiatives that are being done in their municipal constrictions, then there is hope. There is hope. And I've seen a lot of initiative doing wonderful work, especially sorting at source and collecting recyclables and channeling them to the various recycling or conversion industries.
4 or 5 initiatives, maybe, that people can check them out. Doesn't have to be
like Association L'Écoute, they are doing a good job. Arc-en-Ciel is doing a good job. I've seen a lot of initiatives in the Chouf area also that are collecting recyclables. There's also Shu'a al-Bi'a and Cedars for Care. There's plenty of players trying to do as much as they can within their means, but it remains outside the legal framework or the administrative framework, if you want, that we are hoping for.
The last question, Nada, since you're back, I wanted to ask that earlier, but we lost you. And this is a topic that I personally think is very important, is deforestation and Lebanon losing its green spaces. I mean, we have less and less green spaces. We've seen the fires last year, unfortunately, the ravaging fires, the unbelievable absence of response from the government and the authorities. What can be done today to protect what is left of Lebanon's green spaces? And can you hear me now, Nada? No, she cannot hear me. Okay, let me, maybe I can type this and you can answer it. So I'm okay. Do you want to tune off and then try again, disconnect and connect maybe? No, still no. I'm typing. Okay. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have Nada with us.
Nada, try to unmute yourself.
She can hear us. Is she muted? You're muted, but it's the microphone. I think it has nothing to do with her microphone is not working. Yes, she's having electricity and connection problems, which is another big issue. The connection in this country is a big problem. If she's back and she can hear us, maybe I'll ask her. I don't know if Ziad or Mike, you want to talk about this, the issue of green spaces, deforestation, fires, the lack of response, the lack of protection. I mean, Lebanon used to be labeled as a green country, Lubnan al-Akhdar. It's a myth, at least personally to me, when I go around in Europe or other places even. What can be done? I mean, this is the last topic I want to discuss before we wrap it up.
Well, again, I mean, if we have good urban planning, and then there was a national plan on the uses of land and how this government and this country and this state should be managing its green spaces. Now, forest fires are a thing of nature, you know, but also it can be man-made. And I've seen a lot of studies now coming where they tie wastewater management to combating forest fires, where whenever they have wastewater stations, they don't dump the water in rivers. They take them and they fill them in reservoirs where they have quick access to forests. So in case you have any kind of fire going on, you can use that treated water immediately. Like they have waterways running in the forest. I've seen in Turkey where they built roads just for their fire vehicles, where they can hook up to those reservoirs and then they can drive through the forest and then they can sprinkle water all over. It's not rocket science, you know, it's all a matter of.
As you mentioned, it's nature, but the response also makes a big difference. Nada, this was a question to you, but unfortunately we lost you. We're talking about deforestation. I know this is how you initially started in environmental activism, and I was saying that unfortunately I feel like we're losing day after day whatever is left of Lebanon's green spaces. Deforestation, fires are a big problem. What is the solution today to protect what is left of Lebanon's forests and green spaces? And can that solution include the creation of jobs? Again, going back to the green economy.
Yeah, of course, restoring our natural resources would create thousands of jobs for regional communities and young people. But how can we help? We need the law to protect us. Without a law, we can't. يعني تشريعات. Let's say تشريعات. How you say it?
We have laws to protect the forest.
We want to implement the law to make it really a fact law. So if we don't implement our law, we have many laws in the environmental law, but it's not implemented. What we need, of course, we need the people to be wise enough that these resources, it's for them and they should protect it. Let's see what's happening in Bisri the last week. It was really the fireworks. They make it. Yani. It's a crime. It's a crime all over the world. So we can't turn our face about the responsibility of the local citizens, about the farmers, about the municipality, these should be in the time of fire, the seasons of fire between July and November. We should be all alert. So we need an education at the end, and there is many labs like in Balaman. We know there is a fire lab that it's connected to the municipality, and you can see the hot areas, the hot zones. It can give you that this are risky in this time. It depends where are you and which qada or ayya muhafaza.
Sorry to interrupt. Do we have today the means to respond to these fires? Yani, we know that there were
no, actually we don't. No. We have a problem with the civil defense. They need the volunteers. We have only around 5,000 volunteers, and they are coming on their own. منهم مثبتين. يعني ما بعرف
for these rights for a long
time. And we were fighting for them. Yes, exactly. And there is only 500 administrative issue that they can't do anything behind their desks. And who is fighting on the ground? They are youth and young, and they need all the equipments to fight the fire. They are on the front line. So we need to to make a budget for them, to make them to have their rights in all its aspects. So what's the question here is that we have some responsibilities that we need to really judge ourselves and our behavior, and we need to educate ourselves as citizens, because this country needs us. We cannot take it for granted anymore. We cannot.
I'm going to end the conversation here, but I want to ask Ziad and Mark if you have anything at all to add.
I need to add something about the renewable energy, because I missed this part. Yes, because I wrote it down when the experts were talking, and Carl, he gave a big picture about it. But there is now an urgency to shift to a green economy, and this will increase providing a new investment opportunities for future. So there is two questions I want to ask for the audience. Do we want to venture into the risky fossil fuel sector? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. And another question, will it create actual profit and jobs, the fossil? I need to give an example about the world car fleets. What's happening in this sector? They are being electrified, and expectations in the coming years are that the combustion engine will be gone before the mid of the century. So it's all the business around this car sectors, the car fleet, it's changing. This is an example how things are shifting to a green economy. So that's what I wanted to say. What kind of world will be living in the future? This is a question we should ask ourselves about.
To shift and adapt to the future. Mark, Ziad, very briefly, if you have anything to add.
So yeah, a quick note, just an ending point from my end. We did not need to have the Beirut blast to say or to decide or even to wake up and say, no, we need this transformation and we need those structural reforms to be won. Even before that, we were calling and everyone has been calling for those for this transformation and energy transition. So a post-Beirut blast cannot be the same as before. And if we are today speaking about reconstruction and rebuilding activities, it is this opportunity today to move from black to green. And it is time to build better and to build greener. And this is one ending point, like at all levels. If we think at waste or water or solid waste, water, energy, or anything else, this is the main takeaway that we should be focusing on and keeping it in our minds for any planning or any future planning for the country.
I would add to that what my industrial engineering professor used to tell us in class is that when things are bad in the factory, don't blame the workers, always blame the management. So And this country lacks management and lacks leadership for the last 30, 40 years. You know, we've only been ruled by crooks and by incompetent people, and now it shows. And now is the time, and I see the potential of a whole new young political class coming through the ranks, and then will hopefully assume responsibility for the next 100 years to build a new republic.
Thank you, Ziad, and thank you, Nada and Mike, for your valuable input. And yes, in summary, it seems after this discussion that the only way forward to build a green economy is through political change and political will, and having better managers, as you said, Ziad. And we hope that's going to be done, because these are resources that we will leave for our children and our children's children. And we need to make sure that they have something left. And I am certain that we can, and with what you said, we can create jobs, and we can even create money through a green economy. Today, we're no longer talking about only protecting the environment. There's a profit at so many levels, including an economic profit in protecting the environment and in using, sustainable ways of moving forward. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for those who tuned in to listen. Thank you, Carnegie.
Thank you.
And the Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung for this very valuable topic. And I do hope that the environment does not sit on the backseat of our national priorities in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dalal.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.